Good morning, people, and you guessed it, it's time for another vlog. This is going to be our second vlog for the 2016 season. Last vlog you saw the layout process of the haunt, and you also saw us doing a staff, which is part of my gatekeeper costume. Now we're getting into something way more complicated for this vlog. This vlog is going to be covering our power station. Now, I've showed this before in many different vlogs, and we need this year I'm upgrading it. Right now, for the outside of it, I've got buttons to control 12 volt, all my 12 volt, and I've got it set up to do 18 different stations. On the black buttons here, those are all 5 volt. I want to add 3 volt to it, and then I also want to add some emergency the capability of doing emergency lighting. In other words, when the haunt's up and running, I want to be able to basically just turn all these off, throw another switch, and have white light come on. That way people can get out of the haunt safely if something happens. In the 12 years that we've been running the haunt, other than having people sit down and curl up into a ball because they're scared or tripping, which is always a problem in a haunt, we've had no major incidences where I've needed, emergency lighting. But I figured to be safe, it's probably best to, have that in. So that and the power supplies that are running this need to be upgraded. But right now, for the standard box, we've got, like I said, 12 volt, 5 volt, and this is my master switch here. By throwing that, I can kill power to the whole box just by throwing a switch. On the sides, when I did the sides, I figured I wanted airflow on it, so I cut a couple holes in, put some screening in, and then on the back side, I used speaker jacks to make all my connections. These small ones over here are all the 5 volt. These are all the, these are all the 12 volt, and these here are all the 5 volt. And then I've got a hole down here where the power cord comes out for plugging in. And yes, it does run off of 110, but it converts it over to 12 volt. On the inside, as you can see, it's a wiring mess. All my wires to my switches that run down to 2 computer power supplies, and then I got my pigtail, which goes to power, and it's 25 foot long, and it goes into a simple construction grade 25 amp power bar, which is wired up to the master switch. So I can turn anything plugged into that power bar, when I throw that master switch on the outside of it, turns this off, and hence turns everything else off. Now, one main reason why I am upgrading this is because of the computer power supplies here. Basically, between the two of them, it's a 35 amp service. In other words, I can run up to 35 amps of low voltage stuff off those 2 computer power supplies. Right now, power supplies are maxed out, and I can only run, I can run all my LED lighting in the haunt and 1 or 2, low voltage things off the 2 computer power supplies. They're maxed, so those definitely need to be upgraded as well. So I've got some new power supplies, and I'll cover those when we get further into the vlog. Right now, though, I need to get my measurements off this old box. I want to keep it pretty much the same height as it is now, and I want the door up here to be the same size and what have you. I just need to go from this side to this side. I need to extend it out further, so I got to make a whole new carcass to hold everything. Well, I decided I'd just jump right to the end and show you the finished project. I figured to make a really short vlog. You really want to see the new power station? There it is. I didn't even cut it out. No, we're just getting out in the shop. I got all my measurements taken and whatever that I'm going to need, if I have a ballpark. My old power station was 18 inches deep by 15 inches wide. And this one's going to be 18 inches deep by 22 inches. So I'm increasing it almost a foot. Almost a foot. So it's going to be a little bit bigger. I was down at Home Depot yesterday and spent about 30 bucks on this. This is a nicer sheet of plywood. Doesn't have any knot holes or anything in it. And it's about 3/4 of an inch. Just a hair under 3/4 of an inch thick. So it's a little bit heavier wood as well. Now, when I built the original power box, which you just saw in the last segment, I used 1/2 inch plywood, which was perfect. And it was some of the cheap stuff. I think I spent like 19 bucks on that sheet way back then. Actually, no, it was more like 17 bucks. But, you know, you're talking 4 or 5 years ago. Prices have gone up. I decided, you know, like I said, I wanted a little bit nicer piece. Yes, it's going to be getting painted and everything, so you really won't see the wood grain. We'll paint it black again. It tends to blend in a little bit better. And so you really won't see the grain, but this, like I said, this is a higher quality piece of wood, so it'll handle better with the cutting and what have you. But our next step of the process, now that I got my measurements, is I've got to get the bottom cut out and then start laying out all the different pieces, you know, the front, the back, the sides, the top, and we're going to get everything cut out. Anything that needs to be notched, drilled, or what have you is going to get drilled, you know, and then we'll start getting things assembled. Okay, we got all of our pieces cut out. We've got our bottom, our front, our 2 sides, our back piece, and our top piece where all the switches will be located at. Now, I could go ahead and just start putting this all together. Problem is, I got more work I need to do on these pieces before I can start assembling. The front piece and the bottom are done. I don't have anything more to do on those. But on the 2 side pieces here, I need to cut a vent hole in on each side so there's good airflow in there, and it'll help keep all the power supplies and stuff cool. And I can also mount a fan in there if need be to help with that. On the back piece, I've got to drill a series of holes in it to accept all the little push buttons in here. And then the top piece, I need to drill out for all the switches, plus the LED lights that go with the switches. When the switches are turned on, the LEDs light up. So I need to start getting all that laid out and going. Okay, we got to start on assembly. We got the sides and the front attached to the bottom. And it looks like I'm going to have to rework my angle here a little bit. It's not quite matching. I can do that with my sander. That's no problem. It won't take long. As I said before, me and angles don't get along. I've always had trouble cutting angles, so it was to be expected. I figured I was going to have a little work. But right now I've glued all the joints and then used my nailer and nailed everything into place. So this can sit until tomorrow, and I can sand it tomorrow. Right now I'm getting ready to start on the back piece, and I gotta lay out and drill all the holes to accept all of these. They're gonna be on the back. And with doing 2 12-volt runs, a 5-volt run, and then a 3-volt run, plus an emergency lighting run, there's gonna be a lot of them on that piece. I'm gonna have a lot of holes to run through. Well, we didn't do too bad yesterday. Yeah, it's the next day. We got part of the carcass put together. I still got to get the back wall in, and I got work on the top to do yet. But this set overnight, it's all dry and set up. I need to get some putty in here and there and kind of clean it up. I've still got the holes in the top to do, but I did get this laid out yesterday. And we got started drilling the holes. This is the back wall. And I need to clean up that a little bit. Did pretty good on a couple of the sides, but this is where the plugs for everything inside come out, you know, to hook up to electricity. It doesn't really need to be all that neat. No one's going to really see it. And then all the little black dots on here are where, excuse me, wonky camera angle, the tabs on the back of the switch plates go. So I need to get those drilled out. And I got started over here, and then got called in for dinner and had to quit. So I guess our first project, first part of, or I should say the first step of our project for today is to get the rest of these holes drilled out. We've got all the holes cut in, and I went through and I cleaned up the plug hole too, where the power bar cord comes out to plug in. Now from here over is 12 volt. Probably use this section here for lighting. This section here over to here is also 12 volt. We'll use that for Scooby-Boo boards, windshield wipers, any sort of 12 volt low wattage item. We'll go into that. I want to keep the lighting separate. So got that. And then these here, this one here is for 5 volt, 3 volt, and this one will be for emergency lighting, which will be underneath 12 volt. So we got all the holes drilled. Now I need to get that mounted onto the carcass, and we got a little bit of puttying to do. Some of the there's some cracks here and there I want to get puttied, you know, and some marks from my nailer and stuff on the side. And then we're just going to let it sit and dry for a while. We got the back piece on, and I'm checking my angles. And like I said, I'm going to need to rework this angle here because it does not match the sides. Well, I cut that angle the same as this angle up here, and that does not fit either. I tried test fitting the top to it, and there's about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch gap up here. So I'm going to have to rework that. Now with this being glued together, I can't just take it off and run it through the table saw to get my angles right. So what I'm going to try to do is, I'm thinking if I can get it to work on the table saw, I'm going to try running those two angles through the table saw. At least this upper one. This bottom one, if it doesn't jive, that's fine. I can knock it down by hand. That's no problem. But that upper one needs to mesh. I'm going to try running it, I think, through the table saw again, and I should be able to do it. Got the table saw out, and I took that much off of here, and now the lid fits perfectly up here. I still need to adjust this here yet, and that I'm going to have to do by hand. I can't get the right angle on it running it over the table saw with it mounted to the box. So I'll have to do that one by hand, which is no problem, and it's not going to be a perfect angle anyway, and that's fine. I'm not worried about it down here. I was more worried about it up here, because if I had a gap here and we had any blowing rain, it would allow water to get inside, and I wanted more of a seal up here on the top. Got the back panel on the carcass, and I got everything kind of puttied. It's dry, it's ready for sanding. I also got the lid marked out. You'll notice a lot of little hash lines here. That's where I need to drill a hole for the main switch. Now I've got 3 different sizes of holes I need to drill. I've got a 3/4 inch hole, which is what I've got marked out. Then I've got to come back through and I got to measure in between the two, and I'll be drilling a smaller hole to accept a LED light, which will be tied to the switch. And then up here I got 2 toggle switches to put in for the master power and the emergency lighting. Now I could sit here and just go ahead and start drilling, but since I've got several different size holes I need to drill, I figured I'd do a test sheet. And I got a piece of scrap out, and I marked off 6 holes. I'm going to drill those and then measure for my LED, where I need my LED hole at, and drill those. I want to see what it looks like. Well, we didn't do too bad. Wife just called dinner, so I'm shutting it down for the day because I've got some paperwork to do in the house after dinner. So we made it pretty far. Showed you that earlier. We got that all assembled. It's ready for sanding. And then on here, we got all the holes drilled. The big holes are for the switches. little holes are for the LEDs. And the LEDs, the holes for those, I'm probably going to have to widen out just a hair more. I won't know until my brackets come in. I have also got it marked here and here. This one's going to be my master power. This is going to be for emergency lighting. I got to get those holes drilled yet. And I might have to do a little extra work on those. I'll cover that tomorrow. Okay, we've been out here for a while. And we got all the holes drilled in the lid. Had some problems with these two. The hole drilling was fine. It's for the toggle switch. Let's see, where is that toggle switch? I thought I put it in here. Ah, there. Sorry for the wonky camera. It's for this toggle switch. And the problem I had was the wood's so thick it's not allowing the shank, the threaded part up here, to stick up high enough so you can attach it to the board. So I ended up having to notch it out so it'll stick up high enough. Get that back up there, that. And it's not going to be exact. I had it lined up before I shot, but that's perfect enough. But anyway, so I had to dig it out on the back. I just got done getting it sanded. We got the sides yet. I still need to get my screen and the rest of my hardware on the box, but I'll do that after the painting's been done. And then we got the back here where all my stereo jack fittings are going to be going to make connection, and my hole there for where the power cords come out, and the other vent side. So she's sanded, she's drilled, she's, for the other than the hardware, assembled. So a lot bigger, a lot more switches. And I'm a button pusher. I love to push buttons. The more buttons, the better anyway. Hey, we got first coat of paint done. I did the undersides and the sides of the box. I can already tell the size of the boxes of the box needs to be touched up here and there. I missed a spot or two, which is no problem. I can get it when I flip it over to do the inside of the box. The bottom of this, it's not dry yet. It ain't going to be dry for a couple of hours, but I think it's going to be okay. So now I think what I'm going to do, we've got about 80 degrees here today. Shop's at about 75, roughly. So I'm going to crank the heater up. And I've got 4 o'clock, so dinner, I can come back out here about 6:30. These things should be bone dry. I should be able to flip them over, get them their other coat, and we'll have it all the way painted today. And then tomorrow we can get out here and get going on putting the hardware on. All right, we're in the house in the downstairs shop, and we're getting on to a small, sad, actually it's not that small, but it is a sad job. This light power control, which is what I'm replacing, has served me well for quite a few years now. It's done everything I've asked from it and more, and it's time to say goodbye to it. I've got to get in here and get all the switches out, because I'm going to save the switches. I'm also going to save my fittings from back here. I can cannibalize some of those to use on the new one. So all those have got to be taken out. And we got to get in here also, get all the wires snipped. I can't take the switches out with the wires in there the way they are. Same thing back here. The power bar down here we're going to save, and the computer power supplies we're going to save. The rest of it is pretty much trash. But you got to get everything out or get it cleaned up and stuff so that everything can be reused again. And that's going to take a while. So I figure while things are drying out there in the shop, I'm going to be working on this. Well, last night we made some progress. We got in here and we got the old one all gutted. Everything's out of it. Kind of sad to see. That old girl is garbage. We went through and we got the computer power supplies out and got those kind of cleaned up. I need to do some alterations on them. And we got all the jacks from the back of it where all the wires hooked up out. Now, this morning, I got out in the shop and we've got the new one all painted and in and ready to go. All the holes in the back. I cut some vent holes out on both ends. Some screen in there. We got the top mounted. And on the inside, since the lid's so much heavier, I'm going to put some chains on it to hold it. Now our next step on this is going to actually start putting it, is going to be putting it together. Now to do that, to start off with, I need to do some work on these. This is what's going to be running my 12 volt, and I got 2 of them to mess with, as well as I've got to take, actually both these computer power supplies are going in, but this one I need to convert over a little bit more. Right now it's set up to do 12 watt and 5 watt, and I need to do a 3 watt and a 5 watt, so I need to break open that and do some rewiring on the inside of that. And then the light strip that's over there, I need to do some work on that as well, or not the light strip, but the power strip. But I gotta get those things all converted over, and I need to get those mounted in here where they're going to be before I can do anything with the switches or wiring or anything. Well, we've made a little bit of progress on the box. I've got my master power switch on and my emergency lights on, put in, and I just got them wired. We'll open this up here. Now the master power switch, which is the back of it right here, powers the power strip, which all the power supplies will be plugged into. And when it's thrown, the light comes on. And then in case of an emergency, I can throw the switch. It'll kill power to the switches and all the lights, anything plugged into here. With the other switch, I throw it, you'll notice that LED came on. It'll control all the white lights I'm going to be putting in the haunt to light up the path in case of an emergency. So our next thing is, now that we've got the power strip and the power supply for the emergency control in, and the power supply I'm using is wired up for 5 volt and 12 volt, and I'll only be using the 12 volt. That end's done. Now I've got 3 more power supplies. I got the other computer power supply, which is going to go in here. I need to modify to run the 3 volt system and the 5 volt. And then I got the 2 new power supplies that are going to be going in over here to run the 12 volt. And I got work to do on those. So it's going to take a little bit longer process. But the whole thing is I want to get all the power supplies and everything that's going to be attached to the bottom of the box in and working first before I start doing any of the plug-ins or the switches. Because once I start doing that, I end up with wires all over the place, and it's harder to wire, do the electrical wiring. So I'm going to be working on that. We got the basic innards to the box finished. This was our emergency power for the emergency lighting. The switches will go there, the connectors will go there. And then we've got the 3 volt and 5 volt one in, and those will be running there once I get those in. And we got the 2 server power supplies in, as well as the power bar in, and the switches are in. So the basics are in. Now on these server power supplies, they're basically a very souped up version of a computer power supply. Computer power supplies will run about, average anywhere from 15 up to 25 amps. Each one of these is 75 amps. So I basically got 150 amps there. And to convert them over for 12 volt, it's real easy. You use a resistor and then just attach the wire. And those things will run 12 volt all day long, no problem. Now if you want to do like a computer power supply and do 12, 5, 3 volts, you end up having to break inside of them to do it, and that is extremely complicated. They are not easy to switch over for the layman to do. Computer power supplies, you can do that with your eyes closed. Those are easy, but these servers are not. But anyway, I ran my power leads off of them, and like I said, both of these are set for 12 volt. So I got 2 rails over here, and all my connections on this side will hook into 1 power supply, which will be probably for the lighting. And then these rails over here will control the other side, which will be the windshield wiper motors, Scooby-Boo boards, and that sort of thing. Tomorrow, we're going to put the carcass off to the side, and we're going to start getting the wires soldered up to all the fittings and stuff that go on the lid and on the back of the box. I'm making an executive decision. I was gonna just shoot the whole vlog, you know, the whole thing on getting this thing together and, you know, getting it finished, and then uploading the vlog maybe in 1 or 2 parts, you know, and do a double vlog like I did with the last vlog series. And decide I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to bring the vlog to a close now, I think, and we'll upload the first section. This vlog will be the first section of it, and it basically covered putting together the carcass and getting the basic, you know, the power supplies and stuff in. Next vlog will cover, you know, getting all the wiring and stuff done, and, you know, the final testing on the box, making sure everything works and stuff the way it's supposed to. That way you have some time in between. I'm finding if I upload a 2-part vlog, you know, on the same day, part 1 won't get quite as many views as part 2, or part 2 won't get quite as many views as part 1, and we'll go see how we do viewership wise. So I'm going to bring it to a close. We're going to say stay spooky and stay toxic.